Why are food prices rising? If you think paying $10 for a pound of sausage or $6 for a stick of butter is outrageous, wait till you see what's about to happen. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, you'll soon be spending even more for just about everything when it comes to eating in or dining out. But why is that? Let's find out. Number 1. Inflation. That's right, the biggest contributor to the rising grocery prices is inflation. You don't want to believe it, but in the following months, grocery costs are likely to rise by between 3% and 4%. That's on top of all the other price hikes consumers have seen in recent months. According to the USDA, no food category's price decreased in 2021. The USDA has now altered its estimate for all food categories, including meat, poultry, eggs, dairy products, fats, and oils, and even more. Fresh veggies were the only category where the USDA made a reduction. The most significant increase was in beef and veal, while the smallest was in fresh vegetables. The increase in wholesale beef prices is expected to be between 4% and 7%. Avian influenza, according to the report, is contributing to higher retail poultry and egg prices. Poultry prices are expected to rise by 6% to 7%, while egg prices are expected to rise by 2.5% to 3.5%. In the concept of inflation, the available supply shrinks and demand for a certain commodity of service grows. According to the supply and demand economic theory, when there are fewer things available, people are ready to pay more for them. And of course, as a result of demand pull inflation, prices of commodities continuously rise. According to the February U.S. Consumer Price Index released in March, inflation was 7.9% over the previous 12 months, the highest year-over-year increase since April 1981. Number 2. Adjustments in supply and demand since March 2020. As the pandemic enters its third year, it continues to disrupt the flow of goods and food. According to experts, there are pandemic-related reasons why the full output is lower in some places of the world than it would be otherwise. As we recall, the pandemic began in March 2020, disrupting local and worldwide manufacturing and causing supply chain problems. These have impacted a wide range of fields, from automobile manufacturing and sales to medical supply availability. Food supply chains have been impacted by these disturbances. You may recall the pandemic-related concerns in 2020, which slowed meatpacking plants and caused prices to rise and threatened workers. Food supply chain interruptions due to the virus have contributed to an increase in food costs across the country. But before we continue, go ahead and click the subscribe and like buttons. It takes a lot to make these videos. Your small actions tells YouTube to keep promoting our videos. Also tell us in the comments section what you believe is the main contributor to the food price increase. Thanks. Now back to the video. Number 3. Oil prices are crazy high. Energy policy is the most common argument for oil price pass-through. In 2005, the United States amended its energy strategy to encourage the use of biofuels in gasoline production, resulting in increased demand for ethanol. Corn competes with oil as input since gasoline is mostly composed of oil and ethanol. As a result, rising crude oil costs, which is the second major component of gasoline, could lead to increased corn prices. Corn is utilized not only for food but also for animal feed. Thus, the expenses could be passed on to cereals, meat, and dairy products. Apart from that, note that food is often carried over long distances, and high oil prices increase transportation expenses. After an increase in oil futures, you should expect high gas costs 6 weeks later. And oil prices can also have an impact on agriculture since oil byproducts are a major component of fertilizer. Number 4. The big forces that guide money and central banking. Central banks and government-controlled financial institutions that manage the money of the countries in which they operate. When these banks act, their activities may have an impact on inflation, which again causes an increase in food prices. When the Federal Reserve pursues its numerous tactics to shape the economy in the United States, it slows or speeds up the inflation of the currency. According to experts, these policies have recently increased inflation. Years and years of lax monetary policy are currently coming back to bite us, including the rise in prices. Of course, food and other commodities are affected by loose monetary policy, which leads to inflation and increased costs. Experts mentioned additional necessities that have witnessed price increases, such as gas. We might also witness even higher pricing in the future since significant rises in producer and factory-to-factory prices have been observed throughout the recent years. Experts believe that pre-consumer pricing hikes will be passed on to consumers. Number 5. Price hike on raw materials. Markets for agricultural products. Global agricultural prices have always been vulnerable to significant changes in the past. This is due to the agricultural market's short-term nature, in which supply is strongly reliant on weather and demand is very steady. Agricultural prices have risen dramatically in recent years. Other basic resources such as crude oil have seen even higher price increases. Processed and unprocessed food prices are much higher, now that farm prices and crude oil prices are both rising. Number 6. Unfavorable weather conditions. Extreme weather is becoming increasingly frequent as a result of climate change. It is caused by greenhouse gas emissions, which trap heat and raise air temperatures. More moisture is absorbed by hot air. It rains less, water evaporates from lakes and rivers, and the ground dries up. When it rains, the water flows off the soil rather than being absorbed into the groundwater. Floods ensue as a result, which can harm crops. Wheat, which has seen price increases due to drought and hot temperatures in major producing countries, is driving current global food inflation. Spring wheat production in the United States fell by 40% in 2021. According to several trade reports, Russia, the world's top wheat exporter, harvested less as well and has now put a tariff on wheat exports to secure adequate supplies for home use. In July 2021, unusual frosts in Brazil's coffee-growing regions resulted in a 10% drop in production, which in return also affected its prices when shipped to the United States. Number 7. Tariffs on China. Tariffs are bad for consumers since they raise the cost of imported goods. Importers must pay a tax in the form of tariffs on the items they are bringing into the country, and they pass this cost on to consumers in the form of higher pricing. The United States dramatically increased tariffs on items imported from China a few years ago, and experts believe that these high tariffs imposed by China have a direct impact on food costs, raising them. Essentially, these price hikes are passed on to consumers since import tariffs are simply a tax on consumer goods. Every year, the United States imports several $billion worth of food from China. Number 8. Continuous growth in the population. It's crucial to look at supply and demand in order to forecast agricultural product prices in the future. The demand for agricultural products is mostly influenced by population increase and economic success. Population growth is predicted to slow in the following decade, although economic growth will remain strong. This indicates that demand for agricultural products will rise. Also, non-food demand is increasing as biofuel and replaces fossil raw materials as a source of energy. The amount of agricultural products available is determined by the amount of land used for farming and the yield per hectare. A small rise in the area of land utilized for agriculture and productivity is expected over the next decade. As the world's population grows, so does the demand for food, which necessitates increased usage of arable land and water. This is particularly true in the absence of suitable food production technologies and coordinated programs that address community food and reproductive health requirements at the same time. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, global food demand will double by 2050 due to population and economic expansion, which in turn will lead to higher prices.